Hi everyone, my name's Dan Draper and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe and turn on all notifications to keep up to date with the content that I'm going to be putting out, including my podcast. Let's get into the videos. Hi everyone and welcome back to the Dan Draper podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really do appreciate it. Today's guest is an absolute inspiration. I'm very on brand for this one because I'm lucky to have the founder of Bedda's charity. Now when I tell you that I'm super excited to be speaking to Razzak today, I cannot tell you. And as I said, on brand, got the t-shirts, check out the cookbook as well. These are all going to be on the website and I will link this in the episode description. But first things first, Razzak, would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Of course. Well, my name is Razzak Mirjan, and I'm the founder of Bedda. Obviously, Dan, you're doing an amazing job on representing the charity and putting me to shame because I'm wearing no Bedda merchandise. But yeah, that's me.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I have been waiting so long to chat to you. And I know that we met up, when was it? It was just before Christmas, just before Tier 4, wasn't it? And that we first met in person, but we've been chatting for ages, haven't we?
We have, and it's a pleasure to be on. You've had lots of exciting guests, so I have to wait my turn until there's a space, and I'm glad there is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you so much, mate. So how are things anyway? How are things going? We said off air that we're both slammed at the minute. We're really busy, but...
Yeah, of course. Well, life's busy. It's busy but rewarding, obviously. During the day, I'm a lawyer, so that keeps me extremely busy. And then obviously
Wow.
everything with the charity is moving quickly in the right direction, which is great. And family life is incredibly positive. Has recently had a young daughter who turns 6 months today. So
Congratulations.
thank you very much.
Oh, mate, I bet that must be like in such hard times at the minute. That must be such a little ray of sunshine as well.
Definitely, I think both the charity and having our daughter has been a huge kind of benefit because lockdown's incredibly difficult for everyone. But to have the charity to focus on and then the distraction of my daughter has been really special. So very lucky to, of course, have her, and it's definitely given a new meaning to life. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Couldn't recommend it
Yeah,
more.
well, congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
So, Raz, thank you so much for coming on, mate. As I said, I really appreciate it. And we're going to be talking a lot about the charity today and everything, the great work that you're doing that. But let's take it right back to the beginning. So, with the charity, it's to do with mental health and suicide prevention and awareness as well. And it came from a particular incident, which, again, we're going to talk about later on. But it's after the name of your brother. So can you tell us a bit about Bedda?
Yeah, of course. So Bedda was my younger brother. He was sadly 18 years old when he took his own life. There was an 8 year age gap between us. Wonderful, wonderful individual. Very quiet and reserved, but when you got to know him, kind of just amazing personality, funny, caring, loving. Very, very special. So yeah, Bedda was my younger brother, and sadly he took his own life pretty much 4 years to the day today, or
Mm.
yesterday. And what we'll come to touch on about the charity is what we're trying to do as a family, and especially just to do good in his name, and to raise awareness around both the topics of mental health and suicide prevention.
Yeah, and when we first started speaking, and and we were talking about the reasons for you starting the charity again, which we're going to touch on little bit later. But the part that really resonated with me is when we were talking about grief, and when obviously losing your brother. I lost my cousin, who was basically like my brother, and it was really tough. Different circumstances, but grief comes in so many different forms, doesn't it? And one of the things that I've really saw, especially on the website, and again since we were chatting beforehand, is that you're a big Fulham fan, and I saw that Bedda came to some of the games with you as well, and he looked like in the photos he looked like he had an incredible time.
Yeah, I'm a Fulham fan, which is always sometimes a good thing and a bad thing. Beda wasn't a massive Fulham fan, but he loved coming to sports events with me. He loved doing kind of anything we kind of suggested. He was always keen to get involved with, whether it was playing uh, in a charity cricket match I organised, going down to the cottage to watch Fulham. Um, he really enjoyed it. I think more so that we got to spend time together, and it was a fun day out than maybe the football or the result itself. But yeah, we had some amazing
Yeah.
memories because of Fulham together, whether going to games or Christmas at the cottage and him getting to meet players he liked, like Breda Hangeland and stuff like that. But yeah, we had some really nice memories, and Fulham was one of them.
Yeah. And what would you say one of the best games that you went to with Better was? Was there a standout game that you can be like, actually, yeah, that's when Fulham absolutely smashed United, City, Arsenal, whoever it might have been?
That rarely to never happens. So no, I
uh,
have to say the problem is when you go to so many games, they all blur into one, and I pretty much
yeah.
forget whatever score lines there were. But I'd probably say the most memorable moment was going to an event which was called Christmas at the Cottage, where they had a couple of players in the change room where you got to meet and have an autograph with, and this was back in the day with like players like Bobby Zamora and Breda Hangeland, and yeah, he just loved that because it was nice to kind of get into the cottage at night, and there's a really nice festive atmosphere. We're both dressed in our, I think, Fulham scarf and Fulham shirt, and it was just a really nice time, and quite special for anyone, but I think especially, yeah, I don't know how old he must have been. He must have been maybe 12, but special for especially kids to go in and see players up close who you'd only see on TV or from a distance. So that was really special.
Yeah, and it's that kind of that thing of meeting your idols as well, isn't it? Because football players, I think that a lot of them get a bad rep sometimes, and they are seen as influencers, and they're people not that will obviously go off to Dubai and do all of that lot, but they're people that kids look up to and stuff like that. So I can only imagine that he would have been ear to ear smiles from that one, and then sadly, as you previously mentioned, Beda took his own life. And I just wanted to touch on that with you, because obviously your life must have flipped upside down, the same as your family there. So, can you tell us a bit more about, um, what happened next after that, and the events leading up to it?
Yeah, the events leading up to it, there's not much to say really. It was out of the blue, completely unexpected, like most cases, sadly. And then from that, it was, yeah, sort of life being turned upside down is obviously an interesting way to put it. Very much that, if not more, of just trying to understand it all and dealing with those circumstances. Um, yeah, it came completely out of the blue. It was a Friday night. It's just the last thing to ever expect. Of course, very very difficult because personally, I've never had mental health struggles. I'd never had experience with losing someone through suicide. I've been relatively naive to it all, which is both, I guess, maybe a good or a bad thing. So to know that Beda had taken his own life, and then to realize that he had quietly struggled with his mental health is still quite difficult to understand because it's only through kind of perspective and hindsight where you really have that understanding, and from having that experience yourself. So yeah, incredibly difficult. It was, as a family, we were always a close family. He was always surrounded by love. We've remained that, and if not more, become even closer. But it's, like a lot of people could relate to. It's just that one instance, which is always leaves you with questions and a lot of uncertainty as into why. So yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and one thing that I wanted to ask you about that, and it's horrendous, and like we said earlier, dealing with grief for that is terrible, and I can only imagine, again, the headspace that you would have been through, with what happened. But Did you notice, and I think it's important for the listeners to, because I've had quite a few questions around this. Did you notice any signs previously to Beda taking his own life of any mental health struggles that he may have been going through?
I'd say no is the short answer. He had, he was a quiet individual and quite reserved, but as I said, like when you got to know him, he was kind of full of life. He went through days of being up and of being maybe quieter than usual, but nothing I'd ever have associated with mental health struggles. Maybe that was because I didn't understand, the world of mental health that never affected me. So it's hard to
Mm.
identify in others. Um, but no, there's nothing kind of evident. Of course, he had good days and bad days of, as I said, of being sort of more chirpy or more reserved, but nothing to kind of ever lead to the conclusion that he would take his own life.
Yeah. And it's so tough because for me it took Dean to pass away for me to really understand mental health and to really learn about it and to actually, because I think we're similar age, and when we were growing up, but for me mental health personally was something that I never thought about, and it was never taught in school, and there was nothing really around sort of self-care and checking in with people and things like that. Now obviously with the pandemic and things as well, it's really come to the forefront, which is from such a horrendous time. Hopefully we can take one of the positives is that we are talking about this a lot more now. But when you were going through your grieving process, did you notice, and you mentioned that you never had any sort of struggles with your mental health, but did you notice that your mental health had changed at that point and you sort of saw things in a different light, as such, in a different perspective?
I'd say immediately after we lost Better, not really, as I had a focus on kind of looking after the family and being strong for those around me and trying to not organize everything because that was what we were doing as a family, but to just try and take care of as much as I could and be there for others. But knowing that obviously I have to grieve and I've got to come to terms with it in my own way, and that I'd do that quite soon. Since losing him and then from months after that, of course, I became much more aware about my own mental health, about mental health as a topic, as an issue, and have always then been mindful to make sure that I do open up about what's on my mind. I've always been quite an open person. I'm happy to tell people when I'm feeling good or feeling bad. Um, I really don't mind that. It's okay for me to talk about it, but I think by doing that, that makes life a bit easier. Um, yeah, as I said, I haven't fortunately struggled with my own mental health issues, but for sure, if I look back on the time after losing Better with the process of grief, whether you call it depression or not, there's of course feelings of extreme sorrow and sadness and confusion. But it's really, as you mentioned, maybe because it wasn't taught in schools, maybe because there was never an emphasis or a conversation around it. It was all just sort of the light was shone on it when we lost Better, and then it was a very quick learning curve. But of course, as you mentioned, with the pandemic and just every day people are talking about it more and more, and we'll come on to the charity, which has been going now for a year and a half, but the amount that has been talked about just in that time is incredibly high compared to where it was. So that's a positive, but yeah, it's hard for those who don't understand it to have that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking of the charity, then, so you took something that was a horrendous tragedy and you turned it into something so positive. Like even before we were chatting, I was keeping up to date with everything that you were doing, and it then implored me to then get in contact with you. We then started chatting, as we said earlier, but. Tell us about Bedder's charity then, like because this for me is a really, it's one of those kind of as I said, you take something that's from such a tragedy, such a positive influence, and it's really helping people as well. The people that I'm speaking to and the people that are now getting in contact with yourself, that have come via the people and the network that you're building with this, is utterly amazing. So yeah, please tell us about but tell us about the charity.
Well, thank you. I guess I've always been involved in charity work and fundraising, and when we lost Better, I decided to run the London Marathon and do it in support of a mental health charity, and do it in his memory. And I raised a lot of money. I did it in his memory, but when it all finished and sort of the dust settled, I didn't feel like I'd accomplished as what I wanted to achieve. I never had that sense of satisfaction for whatever reason. So then I had the thought that if I'm ever going to be doing, fundraising, charity events, this sort of thing in the future, which I would do, it made sense to really do it properly, and to do it for Better. And the idea initially began as doing a once a year fundraiser in Better's name, and then supporting two charities in that space. Again, then that rolled on to, well, if I'm going to be doing it, let's do it properly. And then the idea of starting a charity in his name came to mind. And Better was founded in November 2019 with the view of softly raising awareness around the topics of both mental health and suicide prevention. We're here to take a unique approach to how we do that. We're not here to compete with the other charities that already exist, or recreate the wheel in terms of the resources that are available. So through that, we partnered with Young Minds as our mental health partner and Samaritans as our suicide prevention partner. And of course, we're working our hardest to normalize the conversation, and do good in his name. But it's much more than a family charity. It's a charity for us all to play our part in raising awareness. And how we do it, this sort of unique approach, and what you kind of alluded to in building a community, was that we began by organising in-person events and initiatives across education, wellness, and recreation. So that means we would organise talks and workshops, not just on mental health and suicide, but on sleep, nutrition, yoga, meditation. Then on the wellness side, we'd organise meditation classes, yoga classes, a fitness class at Barry's boot camp. And then from a recreational perspective, it could be from mindful painting classes to a football match at Fulham's training ground to a concert at Union Chapel, with really the emphasis on bringing people together who share a similar interest and encouraging self care. And then through that, that's our chance to softly raise awareness around these issues. So you don't have to have experienced mental health issues or struggles. You don't have to have experienced loss through suicide to be a part of what we're doing. You could simply enjoy playing football or painting or the concert, the musician that we're putting on. And then through that, it's that chance to open up that conversation and be a part of what we're doing. Because ultimately, the topics of mental health and suicide are incredibly emotional, very difficult topics to talk about, that have the well documented sort of fear and stigma that surround them. So our approach is to really do what we can to bring people together, and softly raise awareness around it, so that we're having fun whilst raising awareness, we're doing good whilst raising awareness, and then that then starts, or normalizes the conversation around what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, it is incredible that what you've done, especially the fact in what you said there, being established in 2019, the fact that it's grown so quickly. And fair play to you also for running the marathon. I mean, I jumped out of a plane for charity for for British Heart Foundation for Dean back in the day. But yeah, it was really tough. I was thinking, I was like, should I make this a once a year thing? And I was like, I don't know if my heart would take it at that time. But
Well,
no,
a
fair
marathon,
play
I
to you,
do love.
mate.
Yeah, well, I do love a good marathon, and it's a good challenge personally, and we're very lucky to have received such amazing support. Like, the charity has grown incredibly quickly, but that is because of the support that we've received. And I always say to whoever wants to get involved, it's, we have our ideas, but nothing's set in stone. We're of a size that can both be proactive and reactive, and we can make things happen quite quickly, which I think sometimes there's frustration with sometimes the larger charities, that there's a lot of red tape and a lot of corporate structure. So yeah, it initially began that we would do maybe 2 events a month, and it just snowballed into 3, 4, 5 events a month. And within 3 months, we'd put on a concert at Union Chapel just before lockdown that brought in over 750 people, which was incredible. And the momentum was certainly growing, and then like the world, we hit lockdown, which we may come on to later, but it was really actually a great time for us because whilst we had just had our concerts and we were flying, it gave us that chance to kind of look back and take a view on what we'd achieved so far and where we wanted to go. Because the in person side of things is amazing. It's a chance to bring people together physically, grow that community, and really open up that conversation in person. But then it has its drawbacks because you're limited by geography. If we do a concert in London, then
Hmm.
all those abroad are never going to be able to make it, and even those outside the M25 won't be able to. So that then gave us a chance to do more stuff online, and we'll come on to it in due course. But that's now allowed us to balance what we do, so we can reach as many people as possible, and ensure that Better isn't just a London-based or UK-based charity, as these are issues are, as we all know, global.
Yeah. And what's your goal for the charity then? What is it that when you had your mission statement when you first came onto it, where is it? Obviously, you've done incredible work at the moment, but where do you see it going in the future?
Yeah, of course. So for the short term to medium term, it's still raising awareness around these topics and normalizing the conversation. There's so much that we can all do, and I think we've still got so much room to grow in these spaces. And our events and the initiatives that we've put on have proved so popular that almost back that up. So we're going to continue to really focus on bringing people together, whether in person or online, to raise awareness and keep doing it to normalize the conversation. But what happens then when we reach a world that awareness is there? We'll be looking to increase access to therapy and initiatives that allow people to open up, because everyone talks about the lack or the long waiting times to get help. And if you're able to then have the confidence or comfort to talk about what's on your mind, we need to make sure that that's then available and possible. So then in the medium to long term, we're working already, but obviously won't be implementing them yet. We're working on initiatives and projects where we can provide more access to therapies and opportunities to open up about what's on their mind, so that we can, at the moment we're at the kind of the gates to the conversation around mental health and suicide prevention. And as long as we can give people that access and let them feel comfortable to talk about what's on their mind, you hope that then that can decrease the levels of mental health issues that we see, and numbers of people taking their own life. Of course, we're a young and growing charity, and we can't change the world overnight. But I really feel that we can have an impact that is unique to what already exists, whilst complementing rather than competing with the charities that already exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there about some of the events, and one thing that I'm really looking forward to, and you've made me pick up my boots for the first time in 8 years, is Better FC. I'm so excited to be joining the team and getting going. I've got to get running again. I'm not going to lie. I've got to do a few laps first. But that must be something there that, again, when we were talking about the community piece and bringing people together, and you've got some incredible people in that team. Jamie Clements, which we know as well. But yeah, that must be incredible to see so many people coming together, and like we were saying, talking about the event side of it, bringing people, and hopefully, fingers crossed, getting some people to come down and see it at the stadium or wherever it is that you're going to be playing.
Yeah, exactly. I've always found personally sports to be an amazing opportunity to break down barriers and bring people together. So, as part of one of the initiatives that we started with Better as a charity is Better FC, which is a football club open to all, and a chance for like-minded people to come together, play some football, and then in turn, as I mentioned, softly raise awareness around the topics of both mental health and suicide prevention. We had our first game last Saturday against the Heroes of Waterloo, which is a a Sunday league side that we sponsor. We're playing all of our games down at Meadowbank, which is home of the Surrey FA and Dorking Wanderers, as part of our partnership with the Surrey FA. It's a beautiful ground. Yeah, it really brings it to life that we can play in such a beautiful venue. We're
And how
playing.
did you get on in the game?
We got on very well. I did bring in a couple of ex pros. We had Marvin Sordell playing for us, who's one of our ambassadors, who ran the midfield, and then we had two Fulham legends in Barry Hales at centre back and Sean Davis up front.
Nice.
And yeah, with that sort of solid spine through the team, it certainly helped. And we came away 9-3 winners, which was a flattering
Nice.
scoreline.
So basically, I've got to get my boots on, got to get on the common and get training again.
Yeah, no, not at all. Honestly, the whole approach with Better FC is that it's open to all. You know, if people just want to get involved and play 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, there's a space for them. It's really hopefully going to be a special football club. It's more than a football team, and you know you've seen the kit. It's the kit hopefully starts to show that and spread that story as well. Because, for example, rather than having player names on the back, we've got mental health related hashtags that just again run true to what we're trying to do and softly raising awareness. But yeah, brings that conversation to the mind of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I am buzzing to get my shirt as well. I put the order in with you today, so I cannot wait to get that. You mentioned there that people are able to come in and play whenever they want. It's open to all. How can people get involved with it? How can they find out where it is?
Yeah, of course. Well, the starting point is I'd say, check out our Instagram, which is at better_UK. That's where, we post everything. In addition to our website, which is better.org.uk. There's always our event listings, and that's where, when we do our in-person events, tickets are sold. Feel free to drop me an email, send us a message on Instagram. You can get in touch with us in any way. And in terms of Better FC, yeah, if you want to play, there's always space. And equally, if anyone has, an 11 that they would like us to play against, then we'd love to hear from them as well. Because our next game is actually against man down 11, so it means there could be room for a Dan Draper
Ooh.
11.
Oh, hello. Oh, right. I'm trying to think of 11 people now because most of the people that I know around London are in the pub. So we'll have to do training and a few beers while we're doing it.
Fair enough.
But no, thank you so much for that, mate. And yeah, as I said, I am super excited. So you mentioned a couple of the ambassadors earlier in Marvin Sordell, which he was an incredible player, probably still is. I haven't seen him play in a little while, but he was an incredible player, but also a massive mental health ambassador. But I've spoken to our lovely Will Manning as well. He was
Yep.
brilliant on the show, and I've spoken to him since as well. But yeah, there's some really amazing people that are behind the charity. Those two to name. JC Stewart, I've seen Charlie King. I know that I've spoken to Mark Tuttiett as well, who was incredible conversation around hospitality. So tell us a little bit more about the ambassadors and kind of how not how they got involved as such, but how that I suppose how that initial conversation went with being a new charity at the time and saying, would you like to be a brand ambassador?
Yeah, of course. Well, ultimately, whoever supports us is part of a family and ambassadors in their own right. But we're very fortunate to have been met with some amazing support from a range of well-known personalities. The likes that you mentioned. Um, People ask a lot of times, how do we get these people involved in what we're trying to do? The answer is I don't know. I think the starting point is that everything that we're trying to achieve through Better is personal, and not personal because it's set up in memory of my brother, but personal because anyone's support truly means the world to myself and to everyone involved in the charity. And I make clear that I want it to be a reciprocal relationship. If they give us their support, then I want to be able to give something back. I want to try and bring them into the conversation because, as I mentioned, Bed is a platform for us all to play our part in raising awareness around these issues. So, Will Manning is an incredible mental health ambassador, and of course has been on the podcast with you. We've got Mark Tuttiett, we've got Tom Chenke, who's an ex-chef at Duck and Waffle. We've got Judy Caller, we've got Marvin Sordell. We've got this incredible array of individuals, and I've crossed paths with them through the different events or initiatives that we've done. I've been introduced to them through friends, and ultimately, I think, yeah, it comes down to it being personal and the fact that we're taking this unique approach to how we raise awareness. Um, they're truly, part of the family, and every bit of support means the world. So it's very fortunate to have these people involved. Charlie King, a wonderful guy, Lawrence Price. There are so many that span such different areas, and we're always, looking to grow this family of, on the website, ambassador, brand ambassadors. But ultimately, it's people who really want to be a part of what we're trying to do. Then it means the world to us.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to chatting to a few of them as well in the future, hopefully. So, yeah, buzzing for that. But Raz, one last question that I wanted to ask you was, what advice would you give to anyone that may be struggling at the minute or has previously been through a similar experience to yourself? What advice could you give to them?
My advice is what a lot of people say is to open up, find someone who you feel comfortable talking to. There's everyone's fear that if people say what's on their mind, they're going to be judged, they're going to be laughed at, they're going to be looked upon badly. But showing that vulnerability is a sign of strength, and I think it needs to be said so many times and continuously, because by opening up, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength, and then it gives people the strength to also open up. And you'll find so many times that when you say something that's on your mind to someone close to you, you won't be the only person who is struggling with that or has had that thought in the past. And by doing that, I think it really helps lift the load off your shoulders, because our minds are amazing but also very scary things, where if you keep it inside, you build it up and you build it up to something which is much bigger than it may be in reality. Of course, it's easier said than done, because it's much easier said than done. But if you
Mm.
don't feel you've got those people immediately there for you, but there's always someone there for you. And I think that's the other thing to make clear is you're never alone. You're never alone in terms of there are people who are there to listen to you, whether that's the Samaritans on their helpline, which is 116 123, or those that have also suffered and can relate with what you're going through. And I just find, yeah, but by talking, it really helps, and that showing that vulnerability is only a sign of strength.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just wanted to say again, mate, congratulations on everything that you've done so far with Better. I know that there's so many more things that are going ahead, and I'm so proud and so honored to be part of the Better family, but also I'm kind of happy in a little bit of way that you got me to buy a pair of football boats because I'm buzzing for this football match. It's been a few years.
Well,
But no, honestly, mate, thank you so much for coming on and being so open and honest about your story as well. Where is it that we can find everything to do with Better? I know we mentioned about the Better FC earlier, but where's the social medias? Where's the websites? And how can people get involved also?
of course. So our social media is, our Instagram account is at better_UK. That's the best place to follow us and see what's going on, and the content that we're creating and sending out daily. And then the website is www.better.org.uk. We've got some amazing things on there, like our Mindful Toolkit, which includes podcasts and books and apps all around the sort of mental health space. And if anyone wants to get in touch, with me, they can email inspire@better.org.uk, and I'm always available to have a chat, or if someone wants to fundraise for us, support that. Really open to it all, but would love to hear from anyone who'd like to get involved with what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure as well that you check out on the website the shop that's on there because there is some incredible stuff. As I said, t-shirt here, but from Better's Kitchen Cookbook there is stuff piled around everywhere on here. So make sure you check it out because it is brilliant, brilliant stuff and for such a great cause as well. Raz, thank you so much for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I will see you very, very soon.
See you very soon, the 22nd of May, Better FC versus Man Down 11.
All
See you
right, I'm
there.
getting my arse out on the common now then for a run. Thanks,
Thanks,
mate.
Dan.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.